What's going on, everybody? Eric Lindquist at Stochastic here on the Odd Shopper channel, coming to you with a Week 13 full edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Goes a long way for me on this video, goes a long way for you. That way you become a prize whenever great content is going live here at our little neck of the YouTube woods. Do not adjust your dial. It is not me. Well, it is me. It's not Lofty that you're getting here on Wednesday. It's me. A lot fewer props and numbers than I'm usually used to coming through there on Fridays, Friday afternoons, evenings, getting together the NFL Lindy's Lock stuff because my friend Lofty, he just had a baby and fantastic stuff. We're so happy for him. Give him some love over on X if you haven't already at Lofty_D. But I'm Eric Lindquist. You can follow me at Eric Lindquist over on X. And yeah, you're normally going to get me on Fridays, but I'm coming to you on a Wednesday here to get you the NFL product stuff early, often, get you some plays here. A lot of these directly off of Odd Shopper. Once again, about 10, 15%, probably less than that. Probably like 5-10% of the plays that I'm used to coming through. So this one's actually pretty easy to fire up here with producer Jacob. I know he's excited, ready to rock. But first, BetMGM, check them out if you're 21 and over. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. But you can sign up for that at the link below. But also, want to throw this out there. Odd Shopper friends, $14.95 for the weekly now, $49.95 for the monthly. Bang. Bang, Mike Breen style. Yeah, those are the NBA streets. But in the NFL streets here, my friends, new low price, $14.95 for the weekly, $49.95 for the monthly. The Discord alone used to be $20. You can now get the OS premium tools and pick them, whether that's Prize Picks, Underdog, or for all of the sports books that you know, you love, your Bet365s, your BetMGMs, your Caesars, your Sugar House. Yeah, we got that one in-house. ESPN Bet, if you've signed up and taken advantage of all those crazy bonus bets. Everything you know and love over in those OS premium tools, giving you a market-based approach, positive EV stuff, and now for $14.95 a week. Such a great time to check out the product. And hey, once you jump in that Discord and you see all of the great analysts, not just myself, but Greg Ehrenberg, Lofty, everybody will have their own channel set up there, and it is going to be awesome long-term here. So glad to have you a part of the Odd Shopper community. Going to be firing this up here in the NBA streets as well, but sign up for that at the link below, $14.95 for the weekly. Really cool stuff, but lots of football to get to. Again, Wednesday practice notes, got a couple of those for you. Arizona, they might have 4 people suiting up on the offensive end. I'm not sure what to make of nobody practicing in their wide receiver core. Trey McBride, that matters. But again, that's a weird one to start with. It's just the first one that came to my head. Let's start. We are covering Thursday through Monday here on this program. All 13 games for week 13. 13 games week 13. Producer Jacob, let's get to the picks. Thursday night football. Now, obviously, I have a lot more props, a lot of things that I was able to comb through. And as such, I found you a lock, which is very, very exciting. But Seattle, 9-point dogs heading here to Dallas. This line has been bet up. Dallas, a public team. This opens at 6. I don't know why it was inside of a touchdown with how well Dallas has been playing. And, well, if the books thought that they were going to not take money here on Dallas side of things at 7, 7.5, they would be sorely mistaken, and it would seem sharp money isn't necessarily going in on Seattle. Now, this is the first opportunity that I've had to be able to talk to you about football the day before it happens on this channel. Normally, it's Friday leading into Sunday. There's that Saturday buffer, and you see some movement there. College football is a huge emphasis here with all of the great content we have as well. But nice to be able to talk about this one specifically, knowing just about everything that we have in store here. And as such, Kenneth Walker will not be playing football on Thursday. Downgraded to doubtful. It's kind of redundant. But as I'm looking at the showdown slate here, it is a wild one when you talk about Zach Charbonnet here and what he could be looking at for opportunities and seeing a sub 50-yard rushing prop on him, knowing that he's going to see a majority of the snaps just like he did last week. I mean, he is by default going to have to see a large workload. Now, Kenneth Walker, it's not going to be identical here, but Zach Charbonnet, 85 and 87% of the snaps the last 2 weeks, and you're going to get a little sprinkling of DJ Dallas and negative game scripts, but with a 9-point spread, this is a negative game script more than likely here for the Seattle side. So I don't know what to make of that number. I thought about putting that one in play right away, but there's something that's a little bit better. As for the Dallas side of things, they are firing on all cylinders. Brandon Cooks starting to join the party here, putting up gobs of yardage from time to time. CeeDee Lamb, and hey, Tony Pollard. I bet producer Jake was happy not to see Tony Pollard in the anytime touchdown category here, but kind of lost its luster here after getting minus 105 in the lock category and converting on that one. Yay. Even though this last Sunday was absolute dog shit, just throwing it out there. Last 3 days, I've had some of the worst beats ever. Anybody watch Golden State yesterday? What are we even doing here, guys? But this is what I'm doing here. I am locking in Geno Smith over 34.5 pass attempts. You've had so many crazy scripts here for Dallas where they've gone out and they've obliterated teams. And what they've been doing more than likely in almost all these spots is relinquishing the gas on Tony Pollard. He hasn't exceeded 15 rushing attempts now in a game since week 3. That is pretty wild to see. And part of that is just how well Dak Prescott has been playing. And as long as he's efficient, you have more passing plays on the Dallas side of things. You're going to have more passing plays on the Seattle side of things because they're not going to be able to control the ball. And Zach Charbonnet, he's not some power back like a Kenneth Walker where they're going to try to kill clock, shorten the field, do it. This is going to be, if anything, again, 47.5, pretty big total. I think the passing attempts, though, at even money, you compare it across the industry, there are minus 135s at Sharp Sportsbook. So DraftKings has this listed. Even money, you're talking a 35-cent gap between that and Sharp Books. Over 34.5 passing attempts in a spot Seattle should have to throw a lot, whether they're ahead, whether they're behind, but more than likely when they're behind. You know, it's not very enjoyable watching New England do anything. Do anything. Like, I don't know, try to play football against the New York Football Giants with Tommy DeVito. Hey, a little bit of that. Absolute purgatory. That is what New England is in. Boston fans, they deserve some bad breaks from time to time here, but we kick off the Sunday slate here talking about perhaps there's some ugly games, and there have been some ugly games on the last few slates, but this one might take the cake just because of how bad New England is on that side of the ball. But the Chargers at 4-7. It's not like you're backing a team. I mean, anytime you see the Chargers as 5.5-point road favorites and you don't cringe a little bit that it's projecting out as your best play, you should probably, I mean, you're probably a healthy human being at that point in time. I mean, Brandon Staley could not be calling worse plays, worse situations. He's a defensive guy, calling the defensive plays and not doing a very good job. That's what he got brought in to do, and it was downright embarrassing what we saw against Baltimore. Again, count them to 361 total yards of offense, but you had 197 yards on the ground against anybody. Now almost, they did give up 200 against the Lions 2 weeks prior to that in that close loss. Absolute shootout, 41-38. But Baltimore controlled the pace and just all about that pace, no treble. I think you're looking at Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen. They're going to be relied on heavily here. Quentin Johnston, that's somebody who did end up participating in practice on Wednesday. Thought we might be looking at some Jalen Guyton, but those props are not currently available, so I can't even really talk through them. A couple of games do have some that we can really work through, but guys, New England, you have Demario Douglas. He wasn't in practice on Wednesday. If he ends up being out, I don't know who. Do they throw footballs to like the popcorn guy? Like the concession stand workers? Can we get a couple of them on the field? Because they got to catch the ball better than Devontae Parker and Juju Smith-Schuster and Tyquan Thornton. Like, what are we even doing here? You're getting Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones, and we don't really know exactly what's going to happen. But it looks as though Joe Bailey Zappi is going to end up being your starter here. So maybe some zest. I don't know what to project out here. I mean, this is weird. Everything's weird. Chargers minus 5.5, but it's a lean. Again, it is not a team that you should be backing as a road favorite here, but you kind of want to, considering the ineptitude that is the New England Patriots. Weird to say that about a Bill Belichick ran team. We go from a 5.5-point favorite to another 5.5-point favorite here. We've got Arizona 5.5-point dogs visiting Pittsburgh, and this one kind of got talked into talking through it with my guy Andy. You guys need to be checking out his NHL content here on the Odd Shopper channel. I know a lot of you do, but he's our NHL guy here in the betting streets. Also, why is my hair like, you notice everything with these new cameras and when it's a whole thing. But other than me being vain for a second, Arizona, I talked about it a little bit on the onset here, but Wednesday's practice report does not inspire a whole lot of goodness. Trey McBride doesn't practice. You had what's his face? Rondale Moore did not practice. Greg Dortch, who ended up being an actual part of that game plan there against the Rams, although they got completely murdered and it didn't really matter in the long run. And then Michael Wilson didn't end up practicing on Wednesday. that leaves Marquise Brown and nobody else that really is going to be available there. Zach Ertz continuing to be on the IR for Arizona. I'm also of the mind, and this is something that I thought through a little bit this morning, and well, it opened at 3.5, and I still think you can get in pretty good here now. Backing the Pittsburgh side within the post-Matt Canada era, the worst offensive coordinator you could ever ask for, you are going to see this offense target dudes at a different clip. Looking, you Pat Freiermuth, 11 targets, 9 catches. He hadn't been targeted more than 4 times. You're talking about the most vanilla offense. Now you're at least giving Kenny Pickett the opportunity to make reads, opportunity to make throws. He had by far his best outing, 72.7% completion percentage, 24 of 33 there in that spot. Getting a little bit done on the ground, all the 5 rushing attempts, 5 yards, nothing of note, but just nice to see him active and act. It was Cincinnati 16-10. They didn't have to do a whole hell of a lot, but I don't think they have to do a whole hell of a lot here too. And I also believe this is a spot against Kyler Murray with Highsmith on one end and Watt on the other. You do not want Kyler Murray out there, your franchise quarterback who has looked better in his 3 weeks here. Last week was a complete disaster all the way around for pretty much that defense, but he's got a rushing touchdown now in 3 straight games. All 3 that he's appeared. I can't imagine you want him out there running with Watt and Highsmith chasing on the road in Pittsburgh in a lost season. This feels like a spot, especially if he's missing all of these receiving options, or at least a few of them. You kind of hold back here. Not that you start Cooper Toon. You still want to start Kyler Murray and see what you got there, but you're going to be very careful about what play calls you're throwing in there. This might be a bit of a punt. Good God, this keeps getting higher and higher. Come on, get high. Pittsburgh -5.5. This is a like. This is an easy play. This should be on your card instantly. Arizona's defense, super accessible on the ground here. And hey, Jaylen Warren. How about Najee Harris joining the party? 99 yards. They got 99 problems, but Matt Canada ain't one anymore. So you want to talk a disturbing, disgusting little play? I know a lot of you don't like unders, but this one just seems a little bit too clear-cut to me. I'm going to call it a lean. But it's one of the games that we do have props for because massive news on the Indy side. -1. They're still road favorites ever so slightly here going into Tennessee. Tennessee took care of business at home for the first time in a long time. And Derrick Henry, of course, just did the 2 touchdown thing he does, even though it was just 4.2 yards per carry, only 76 yards on whatever. Tajay Spears got dinged up in a real, ridiculous play that never should have happened. Derrick Henry got in the... That's a scary guy to come to the defense of you. Nice for Tajay Spears, but either way, what I'm getting at, the running backs on the other side, Indianapolis, Jonathan Taylor, doubtful. The guy ends up undergoing surgery on a right thumb injury that I don't even remember seeing, so that's always cool. He ended up having a really nice game. He had the 2 touchdowns, 91 yards on the ground, but this is now going to be the Zach Moss show. Trey Sermon, he is the number 2 running back in the order, the top backup here, but Trey Sermon did not work out over in San Francisco. Ends up coming over to Indianapolis, gets a fresh start, but not really because he's had all of 8 rushes on the entire season. Weeks 3 and 4 before Jonathan Taylor was activated. So just throwing it out there. Pretty wild run out here for Zach Moss. Fantasy owners, good for you. Enjoy it. But this is a Tennessee matchup. They used to be an extreme run funnel. It's been a little bit more accessible, 110.8 yards per game on the ground, ranked 15th. But this is something that I expect the public to bet up, and I think you'll want to take advantage of it. Because Zach Moss, he has outperformed everybody's expectations because on the season has some really good numbers. 4.8 yards per attempt, 141 attempts, 672 yards, grading out nearly 5 yards per carry. That is way better than you or me or anybody expected from the once Utah prospect, goes to Buffalo, gets completely disbanded. Nobody wants anything to do with him. And Zach Moss smashes an Indy, absent Jonathan Taylor. So now he will be absent Jonathan Taylor once more. But this feels like an under to me. It projects out as an under for me. I have him around 64.5 rushing yards here right now, which isn't quite in the category of a play. But again, that is a median distribution. I think there's a lot of ways where, yeah, that's the mean that I'm talking about, the aggregate of it. I think you're looking at an under where Tennessee is able to take that element of the game away a little bit more. And yes, this is a team, an offensive line in Indianapolis that has looked like their offensive lines of old at times this season. 6-5 on the season, taking on a 4-7 Tennessee team. But even though I expect 80% plus of the snaps here for Zach Moss. I expect the public to bet this up north of 70. And if it gets there, be on alert. It already projects out okay for me. Again, 3 yardage difference, not a whole hell of a lot to write home about. But again, that is the mean that I have for it. A median that I'm looking at is a little bit lower than that. And then you get this to 70 and a half, because he's going to get steamed up as the week goes on. We want to attack this play for a half unit. Denver, Houston, probably, I don't know, is it a hot take to say that Denver's one of the hotter teams in the AFC right now? It's not a hot take. It's just a fact. It is what it is. I'm not a big hot streaks guy. You'll never hear me say, oh, they're playing really well right now, or this one, because there's always regression that is waiting right around the river bend, and we'll get to that a little bit for Philly. I don't know how. Philly's pulling all the tricks that Minnesota did last season for my Minnesota Vikings, resulted in a first-round knockout at the hands of Daniel Jones, which in hindsight makes me even more upset than it does right now, or than it did then. So disgusting. Anyway, we got Denver here, 3.5-point dogs going into Houston, and I don't completely hate the idea of snagging the 3.5 here. Houston, CJ Stroud, talk about it every single week. I have to eat crow for the rest of my life because he looks like the real deal. He can air it out. Even last week against Jacksonville, I would call it like a subpar outing by his standards. He had a rushing touchdown, had 2 touchdowns through the air, 26 for 36, 72.2% completion percentage, and that ridiculous illegal motion call that ended up knocking out my Tank Dell lock for everybody that ended up getting upgraded. He finished right around, 50 yards, I think is what Tank Dell finished at. 60 and a half is what I got him locked in at. Closed at 65 and a half, and that play alone was 62 damn yards. So it would have been over 110 yards on the day. Unbelievable run out for a play that everybody does on the Miami Dolphins and Tyreek Hill gets away with. Why can't Tank Dell just go in motion? Somebody else, I don't know, such a ridiculous ticky-tack call. But anywho, it's always a ticky-tack call when it goes against you. In the last 3 days, that's kind of what everything has done. But let's turn the course on this one, because Denver, shout out to Sean Payton. He has turned this defense around. I know that he's not necessarily just like the most defensive-minded guy on planet Earth. You know, we think about him in New Orleans once upon a time, calling shots for Drew Brees. Alvin Kamara looked pretty good once upon a time. Still looks okay, but Derek Carr, the most vanilla quarterback that has ever walked the earth. God, I can't stand that guy. We'll talk about him against Detroit. But Denver and Houston, I think this is a spot where you're going to see Russell Wilson continue to cook to some extent. I mean, the Cleveland game, he only had to attempt 22 passes, pretty chill. And Cleveland's just awful with DTR there at the helm. Then he gets it knocked out with a concussion. PJ Walker comes in. Denver just played that one close to the vest. And even with 2 fumbles and 1 lost fumble there for Russell Wilson in that spot, this is a Houston defense that I still don't completely believe in. And I don't think everybody understands how good Russell Wilson has been this season. 103.4 QBR, 20 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Thought he was cooked. But now Russell is cooking, friends. I love myself some CJ Stroud, but this is value here at plus 154. Denver money line. Yeah. Oh, Eric only picks chalky. No, I do not. I pick the best plays, and this is the best play from this one. As of right now, would love to see some props up in her. But hey, this running game starting to get going for Denver. Javonte Williams, Samaje Perine, even Jordan, I will remember you. McLaughlin. Sorry for that one. Lean with it, rock with it. This is just like the most stay away football game I've ever seen. Detroit -4 going into New Orleans, and talked about it a second ago, but like Derek Carr, has there ever been a less inspiring quarterback than Derek Carr ever? Goes into Atlanta, gets completely bamboozled, coming off of a game against Minnesota that we won in week 10. And my Minnesota Vikings, man, thank God they have a bye this week and I don't have to deal with them. But Derek Carr, 10 touchdowns, 5 picks, just vanilla, flatline across, 88.5 QBR, and just, I don't know, it's not going to be somebody that I want to go out of my way to back anytime soon in these kind of spots. But I might back them for a little bit of offense, because Detroit, they have been slide to the left, slide to the right. And yeah, Thanksgiving was an absolute stone cold disaster. Sure, they get the extra couple days of prep here, but I mean, do you feel good about a 29-22 shellacking by Green Bay that wasn't actually that close ever? I don't. Defense that also gave up 26 to Justin Fields in his first game back. Oh, I don't feel good there either. And the Chargers, 41-38. 38, 26, 29. That's what they've given up the last 3 weeks here. And now New Orleans, they don't have Michael Thomas. We know that, but they have Chris Olave. As long as Olave is on the field, this is something that I think has an opportunity to come to fruition here on the card. Over 45.5, it's going to be a lean for me. Detroit, we know what they can do on the ground here. David Montgomery off the field, mainly because Jahmyr Gibbs being the pass-catching back, the more dynamic back there, trying to come from behind against Green Bay. So don't read too far into that when you see the props. I think David Montgomery should be able to get his here. New Orleans defense that don't inspire a whole lot of confidence after that performance against Desmond Ridder. I'll throw that out there. Defense is down to 7th. I know that seems pretty good still, but 7th in PPR ranking. They were up around 4th, 5th all season long, so a little bit of regression everywhere. Maybe over 45.5 can get on the card. Could drop to 45. That'd be nifty. Let's get back to liking stuff, shall we? I really like this football game for betting purposes. Definitely don't like it for watching purposes. A 34 total. Atlanta, 2.5, 3, 2.5, 3 across the entire marketplace, taking on the New York Football Jets. I don't know why there's not a basketball Jets or baseball Jets. I don't know why I said it that. There's a Winnipeg Jets once. Yeah. Anyway, the Jets. You obviously know Tim Boyle. He was Tim Cooked. I tweeted that, just stole my own tweet. But week 12, 27 for 38, great completion percentage, but never great when you have the kitty gloves on and then you have 2 fumbles and you didn't have it. Two interceptions to go with it. Hey, 71.1% completion percentage. Whoop-de-doo. It's like a Pennington line. Old schoolers know what I'm talking about there with the Jets. Actually, he was always accurate, but didn't throw nearly that many picks. But Tim Boyle, friends, he's not good. He's very, very bad. He's in fact very, 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 very bad. And this Atlanta defense is starting to put some pieces together. Talked about him in the last segment there. Looked all right going up against New Orleans. Held them to 15. Arizona, that wasn't a great look going on the road and losing that one as well. But getting after the quarterback a little bit here. And yes, Minnesota, Tennessee, those are some rough ones in the middle of that patch. But the one thing that they've been doing better of late is they've just been holding opposing passing games to sub 250 yards. Now, the New Orleans one was come from behind, 296 yards, but 230 against Arizona and Kyler Murray, 217 against Josh Dobbs in Minnesota, 226 against Will Levis, where everybody was buying in on Will Levis, even 256 against Baker Mayfield in week 7. A lot of low passing output here against a Falcons secondary that, against Tim Boyle, should be able to cook themselves. So, friends, I love the under of 16.5 for the Jets team total. Wild to see this one, but hey, OddsShopper helps show this with positive expected value right now in the marketplace. That could change. It's very fractional. It's very fragile, but you're asking Tim Boyle and company to put up 17 against any professional defense? That's asking a lot, especially when you're talking about minus 105, minus 110. It has moved to minus 115, best available line at Caesars Sportsbook right now. But sharp books have this north of minus 130. Pretty good buy-in spot. BetMGM, friends, you can sign up for that down below. Now, you have your DraftKings Sportsbook, your FanDuel Sportsbook. If you're looking to add another one to the fray, and you should be, it's called OddsShopper for a reason. You want to have exposure to multiple books. Get exposure to books that are giving you promotions to chill, to hang out and try out their product. And BetMGM is doing just that in your state. Now, the offers do range state to state, depending on where you are, but claim up to $1,500 in bonus bets at the link below. Plus, us here at OddsShopper, we're going to throw in one nifty thing for you. Our OddsShopper tools and Discord access. We're talking the market-based approach. That is what I preach. That is literally what we do here. We also do it in the Pick'em streets, where you can check out Prize Picks Underdog. If that's what's available in your state, that has an opportunity to be very, very fruitful for you. And then we also have the premium Discord that now comes with it. It used to be $20 just for the Discord, exponentially more for the OS tools, but now everything is bundled together for the low price of $15 a week. So you lose $5 off the top there, and you get all of the tools, and then also $50 for the month if you want to save even a little bit more. So again, this is a $100 value now at 2 months of it for the OddsShopper tools and Discord access that you get completely free by checking out BetMGM at the link below. So maybe do that. Only if you're 21 and over. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Back to the games we go. Hello, 50 total in the middle of December. Well, not the middle, it's the beginning of December. Happy holidays to everybody. It's gonna be a fun ride here. I think we're gonna have a good December. It's coming. Long November, and there's reason to believe. My last 3 days have sucked, but I'm gonna stop singing because that's not good omens. Miami -9.5 going up against the Washington. Well, I almost said football team. Commanders is who we're going to be talking about here. In Miami, they get Devon Achane back in practice in a limited capacity on Wednesday. That obviously matters big time because he is dynamic. He is very, very good at the running of the footballs. Running of the footballs. Check. That was kind of like a hangover joke, but that was the using of the Rogaine. Check. God, I love that movie. You cannot make that movie in 2023, I can tell you that much. But Raheem Mostert, we can make the movie about him because it's cool. Also, Hard Knocks, if you're not watching it, the mid-season Hard Knocks right now is fire with the Miami Dolphins. Wild stuff, except for Tyreek Hill's wife getting, like, nacho cheese stuff. Felt legitimately bad for her. But anyway, we have Miami here. This is a team that should be able to put up points against the sweatless, against the youngless defensive line here of the Washington Commanders. This is just... yeah, weather looks fine. Everything looks fine. They get Devon Achane back. That'd be nifty. I mean, this could just be all systems go here for a Miami backing. But it could also be Washington on the other side of this one. You've seen the secondary. Jalen Ramsey, confirmed, matters to this football team. And you get him opposite of Xavier Howard. Really scary kind of defense that you're showing up here with Miami. Miami first in offensive grade at PFF, but now up to 8th after a couple of really stellar weeks. Helps to have Aiden O'Connell come to town, that's for sure. Helps to face Tim Boyle on the road. Yeah, these are good things. But going up against Washington here, Sam Howell dropping back at the highest rate of any quarterback in the NFL. That's fun, though, for points. But it's not good for the complexion of trying to win this football game against a Miami team that, with Chubb and Howard and Ramsey playing the way that they are, really hard to get away from this 9.5 number. But I feel like I missed the boat. And this is one of those like FOMO bets where you want to be betting earlier in the week. But for me, with NBA and everything else, hard for me to be able to fire up 6.5 here. If I had seen that when it opened, I would have fired it right away. But it moved quick. 9.5. I'm leaning that direction. Kind of a dealer's choice. It technically grades out pretty well for me in market-based approach. It's 9.5 everywhere. Probably a stay away at this point in time, but I really want to pull the trigger. Carolina and Tampa Bay. Hey, we got some props. That's exciting. Carolina 5.5 point dogs. It's stayed exactly the same here the last couple games, or last couple days, excuse me. Last couple games. That'd be weird if they played multiple games against each other. What is this, Pop Warner? But anyway, Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield. We'll talk about him in a second here, but nice to see some offensive competence out of Tampa Bay from time to time. It's kind of a fun football game to watch. Mike Evans went completely ballistic. That's for sure. Confirmed having the best season, perhaps of his career. This is wild to see the Texas A&M product, and that was a long time ago with like Johnny Manziel and shit, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that's a long time ago. But Mike Evans, 850 yards, 54 catches, 9 touchdowns now on the season. He's had a tutty in 3 straight, 2 in the last one against Indy. Of course, they lost the last 2. That's just how that works. But Mike Evans having a phenomenal season as that dude, as that alpha. Chris Godwin, not nearly as involved as you would hope. Only the 1 tutty for him, 606 yards. But hey, identical 53 catches. So really good stuff and passing volume. And you get Rachaad White off of the injury report. He popped up on Saturday out of the middle of nowhere, still played through that, ends up going to Indy, has 15 carries, was still the workhorse back. Nothing really changes in those circumstances. As for Carolina, Chuba Hubbard continues to be the number 1 for them on that side of things. Thought about betting him for an anytime touchdown, but alas, no lines available here for that yet. So if you want to know what I end up firing up in the anytime touchdown department, which has been the most profitable part of my portfolio throughout the 12 weeks of the NFL we've had so far this season, again, that premium Discord is now only $15 a week, in addition to getting all the tools and content and exposure to every one of the OS analysts here. Myself, Greg Ehrenberg, Isaiah Suarez, Ben Raza, everybody you know and love hanging out there. Eitan Shander, my dude, absolute insane person, but you know, I love them all the same. But Baker Mayfield, over 228.5 passing yards here. This is too low of a number 1. I expect to be, I don't know. I kind of expect this number to dip down a little bit, and was talking about this pre-show with producer Jacob because, well, I don't know what the public sentiment is here, because Carolina only gives up 179.6 passing yards per game. But this is an offense in Tampa Bay that, yes, they found a little success on the ground with Rachaad White last week, but that hasn't necessarily been Rachaad White's MO. It's been what he can do in the passing game. 7 targets in 2 of the last 5 games. Adding that to the fray, 6 catches against San Francisco in come from behind mode. This is one that I think is pretty, this has a pretty good chance of dipping a little bit. So if you want to wait for like the 225, 224.5, I simply think people will look at Carolina there, see that, oh, they're only giving up 180 per game. That's because teams are in rush first, positive game script nonstop against Bryce Young, who is terrible. And now Frank Reich fired. Lots of opportunity, I think, for Baker Mayfield to outperform expectations here. To the game of the week. I don't think anybody would argue with that at all. I know Patrick Mahomes going into Green Bay on Sunday night is going to be enjoyable. I understand that there's probably some sick people who probably look at something like Denver and Houston with as good a football as they've played relative to expectation who want to just go that direction. But no, highlight, star it. Everybody wants to watch San Francisco and Philadelphia here. But Philadelphia open as -1.5 point favorites. San Francisco -3 or -2.5 is the prevailing number everywhere right now. You've seen a quick turnaround here, and I think it is completely warranted. Let's talk through it. You got San Francisco, could not have looked a whole hell of a lot better there in Seattle. Brock Purdy just going back to being Brock steady there. 70% completion percentage, had the tutty, did throw that one pick later, and it didn't really matter. They were up 31-13, W, easy move along. The guy has 19 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and nearly 2,900 yards passing already this season, a 112.3 quarterback rating, and my God, has he just utilized Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle to perfection. Really helps to have like all of those dudes on your team. But it's actually not the offensive side of the ball here that has me thinking that San Francisco is the side you want to be leading on there. It's what they have on the defensive side. Adding Chase Young opposite of Nick Bosa is unfair to see that. You got Greenlaw, you got the corners, you got everybody that is just insane on the San Francisco defensive side of the ball. And Philadelphia has ran so good, it is unbelievable. Now, they've played close games against Washington, won in overtime in week 4 there, had a number of spots where in the last couple of weeks could have lost that Buffalo game quite easily, could have lost pretty much the Dallas game they could have lost pretty easily. And of course, the Kansas City come from behind mode on the road there. Jalen Hurts, it's unbelievable what he's been able to do in some of these fourth quarters of late, but eventually that time runs out a little bit here. Again, -155. There's no way that I'm going out of my way to say San Francisco should be the team that you back here, but I would. I'm just not going to do it with my money in terms of like, I think it's a pretty efficient line, but San Francisco -3. I think this is completely the right side of it, considering the secondary for Philadelphia, something you can really take advantage of. Also, you can get after them a little bit on the ground, giving up some opportunities to pass catching backs from time to time. And I don't know, Christian McCaffrey seems decent at that. Yeah. Otherwise, they just completely sell out to stop the run. And then they can't really do anything in that secondary. San Francisco, as long as Brock Purdy doesn't have a freak accident like he had in the NFC Championship game last season to his elbow, this is a team that's healthy for the first time in a long time, brings a better defense than normal to the fray. And yet, talked a lot about a game that I don't have a whole lot of interest to bet. It is so hard to get to anything here. Said it before, San Francisco, this looks efficient. If I had jumped in earlier, again, you want to bet some of these NFL lines on a Sunday when they drop or a Monday, because it is just way too good a value if you were able to get San Francisco +1.5 or San Francisco plus money on the money line. That would have been an enjoyable experience, because now you're paying 55, 60 cents more than that as of right now. So pass all the way around. Best play is Brock Purdy over 8.5 rushing yards. We have props, but I have no interest. I will have all the interest in watching this game, but please stay away with your hard-earned money. I don't really even know what to say about this one. Cleveland +3.5, the Rams on the other side of this. DTR, he's still in concussion protocol. Don't know if he ends up starting. If it ends up being PJ Walker, I don't think it really changes the grading for me of either of these. Do I think DTR could be better long-term? Sure. Do I think he's better than PJ Walker right now? maybe slightly. I mean, PJ Walker, 1 tutty, 5 interceptions. Doesn't look great on paper. But DTR, he had been competent against Pittsburgh in that 13-10 win. But still, it was a pretty brutal outing here. 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions himself on the season. So, like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. But the Rams, they completely took care of business last week like they needed to against Arizona. Now winners of 2 straight coming off the Dallas spot. Matthew Stafford healthy. Didn't even need to utilize Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp because Kyron Williams just went complete God mode. 16 rushes, 143 yards, 9 yards per carry. Added 6 catches for 61 to the fray and 2 passing, catching touchdowns. My dear God, friends. I don't expect that to continue, but here's kind of what I'm looking at. Cleveland's defense confirmed really, really good. And if Kyron Williams, who's now your bell cow back, Royce Freeman actually looked pretty good from time to time in that one. 5.9 yards per carry for him, 13 carries, got mixed in enough. I think this game ends up getting slowed down quite a bit. My projection for Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua has come way down from where it did against Arizona last week. And hey, again, didn't look good against Arizona last week. But if this Rams offensive line, which has done a good job of projecting Matthew Stafford relative to what it did 2 years ago, and is able to get the ball moving here on the ground, this sets up as a low-scoring affair, and thought about taking an under of 40, but even better than that was the LA Rams under of 21.5 for a team total. I think this one gets sloppy, but the Rams, obviously, they're the major fade in the total department anyway. They'd have to do a majority of the work. So if you're feeling a little bit more inclined, you can get a better number here on the LA Rams under 21.5 team total. Just calling it a lean right now. Want to kind of figure out exactly what's going on the Cleveland side of things? Kareem Hunt dinged up, Amari Cooper dinged up, and obviously DTR and PJ Walker, either one of them's good, but maybe we take the total. A lot to kind of mine out here in the days and leading up to Sunday. Ironic, we just get done covering a game there. Cleveland, LA Rams, one little note about that. Joe Flacco taking first round reps. Thank you, producer Jacob, for that tidbit here. That ended up popping up today, and holy mother of God, that would be entertaining if nothing else. Kind of want to see, like, that's kind of wishing bad things, Matt Stafford. Can we get a Carson Wentz, Joe Flacco sighting? That would be fun. If you're hating football, I don't know. But Kansas City, Green Bay, going to Lambeau Field. Going to be exciting to see Patrick Mahomes go through the tunnel there. But Green Bay, on the heels of a surprising, very surprising victory against the Lions the other day, the entire farm, like 90-something% of the money was on the Lions side of things. Everybody talking about it. And the Lions can't win a Thanksgiving game to save their lives, apparently. Although, again, historical data like that is kind of useless. That's a conversation for a different day. But the Kansas City Chiefs have already seen money go against them going to the home Green Bay team. Now, 1, this is a publicly bet team in Green Bay, and 2, they look confident. Jordan Love looked really, really good against Detroit, although Detroit, talked about it earlier, have my issues with them here as well. But Kansas City, they ended up coming from behind, getting it done behind Rashee Rice, going completely ballistic. That guy needs to be the number 2 option here in this offense. He is very, very good, very efficient route runner as well, and knows how to get into open space and win one-on-one matchups in man coverage. Was going through some of that game just to kind of see why Rashee Rice was so effective, and he just wins matchups underneath and has good rapport, it would seem, with one Patrick Mahomes. Sky Moore getting into the mix a little bit. Justin Watson, what can Watson do for you? He's on the field a bunch now. They should just send Kadarius Toney and MVS to the shadow realm. But this is a game that I think you just put a half unit on and you move on with your life. Kansas City feels a little bit undervalued to me here in a road spot where, 1, their team doesn't exactly travel poorly. Not that you're going to go into Lambeau and turn it red. But 2, Green Bay played as good of a football game as they could humanly possibly ask for. And how many times have we seen them inconsistent in some of these spots? I think this is a range of outcomes kind of thing here for me. And now that it's sitting inside of the key number of 7, I think you take a stab on it. Half unit, Kansas City -6. I think winning by a touchdown, a pretty likely outcome. Obviously, the books do too, so it is what it is. That's where the number opened at. Give me Kansas City -6. A little bit of regression here coming for the Packers and Matt LaFleur's offense. This would have been a really fun Monday Night Football game if you had Joe Burrow, but alas, Joe Burrow, he is no more here for this season, and it is the Jake Browning Part 2 Festival taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. 8-3 now Jacksonville is. Kind of just that quiet team that keeps churning out W's now, beating New Orleans on the road, beating Pittsburgh on the road, beating Houston on the road in 3 of their last 5 there. The one lone loss to San Francisco. Nobody's going to lament somebody losing to San Francisco, although it was embarrassing at home like that. But they are huge favorites in my model going up against Cincinnati here. And this is one your boy did bet right away when he saw it. Now, there are 8s, there are 8.5s. You might only have 8.5s by the time you listen to this, and I do not care. I do not care. I have this as a fair value of 12.5, which is a murky, weird number. Technically, you could do like 13.5. And we kind of joked a little bit before the show, producer Jacob and I did, that we would bet this thing all the way up to 13.5. But friends, that's how bad Jake Browning is. He is horrendous. He never looked good at Washington at the collegiate level, kind of similar to a Tommy DeVito, what he was, I believe, at Rutgers. But anyway, you were looking at a situation without Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence on the other side. It's just not even making sense to me that this line, ESPN Bet has this at -8 right now. That should not be the case in any way, shape, or form. I can't imagine Jake Browning making headroom here coming off of that last start and creating any kind of offense. Joe Mixon, there were a couple of breakaway, broken down plays, and without some fluke luck, there is no way that they cover this number. It is just going to be Jacksonville all day, all night. You take them to the bank here on this one. By far, my favorite play of the week. And yes, it comes on Monday night. Nice to be able to do Monday night for you. Hey, the lot comes from Thursday to start off the show and Monday. Just realized that now. It's kind of fun. Jaguars are 8-3 against the spread. Let's fucking go. Make it 9-3, friends. Jacksonville, a team we've backed a lot this year. We continue to back them here. Jacksonville -8 gets it done. And that does it for another edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks. You know what to do. Go to that comment section below. Let me know your favorite plays that exist here on the board for this lovely, lovely slate of games we have for Week 13. 13 games for Week 13. Thank you to producer Jacob, coming to you a little bit earlier here Wednesday afternoon. Awesome stuff. Happy to be able to bring it to you. And hey, give some love to my guy Lofty, who does these Wednesday videos. Lofty_D over on the Twitters. Congratulations on his second kid. I'll have a kid one day. It'll be nice. My wife wants to love me and stuff. Anyway, that's a conversation for my therapist. I'm going to get myself the heck up out of here, friends. Check out BetMGM. Check out Odd Chopper. Great stuff across the board. New low price there for the Odd Chopper goodness. Until next time, friends, I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck in the NFL streets for Week 13.